The only announcements I have is next month, we're gonna have our gift exchange and our bank, whatever. We're gonna have barbecue to you probably again.
No, not till next
I will
month.
send something out. We might have everybody bring the side dishes this time. So, and the desserts. So I will let you know about that for sure. Speaking of that, we need 4 more hostesses for the year. We need 2 in May and 2 in June. Anybody want to volunteer? I can write you down right now. Just raise your hand. Come on.
I'll volunteer.
Okay, is May okay, Char?
What?
May?
I suppose.
If you're still here, okay. I'll put you guys down for May. And then Judy and Alicia? Okay. Oh, I'll put Teresa down as a. All right. Perfect. Thank you. Oh.
Jenny, can you remind us about the gift exchange? I can't remember what the dollar.
Okay, so we made it $10. I'm thinking 15 makes more sense. I don't know. I mean, 10 to 15. Let's do that.
10 to 15.
And it's not necessarily a joke gift. It's supposed to be something that somebody might want. Because the idea is you steal the gifts from each other. Even though we called it a white elephant, there's different descriptions of white elephants. Somebody thought that meant it was supposed to be something funny, but I think it's usually been decent, nice stuff.
Something that somebody wants.
Yeah, because otherwise, why would you fight for it, right?
Yeah, I was at Home Goods yesterday. They have mountains of stuff to choose from at good prices.
Where is that?
At Home Goods.
Oh, at Home Goods, okay.
Mountains of stuff.
All right, so yeah, do you think 10 to 15 sounds okay?
Yeah.
Or Ace Hardware.
Ace Hardware, or Ace Hardware, that's right. Might even have a plant or something somebody might want, you never know. Okay, so with that, I think that's all I had to really talk about. Deborah's going to introduce our speaker. And we'll get started.
And before I forget, Danny asked me to make sure that I took notes, if any. And also, if you haven't signed the membership note when you sign in sheet, please do it on your way out. I'll put it here on the counter. And that's it for my business part. Okay. For those of you who have not met Kathy McGhee before, I'm sure many have seen her at Ace Hardware, where she has been for 22 years. And,
Ace is the place.
she has
We
become
try.
our go-to girl for all kinds of planting things, but especially houseplants, which she does love. And she's going to just sort of go right in there, tell you everything about those plants, and I'll let her go. Kathy McGhee.
I want to tell you, I am super impressed at all the people that are here. You know, this is really nice. I have a lot of things to share with you about houseplants, but before I do that, I would like to know what your questions are first and foremost, because I think most of you will have the same questions as another, or concerns, or frustrations. And while we're talking about houseplants, i.e. indoor plants, we can venture outside if time permits and if anybody wants that too. So, who has had total, complete success with their houseplants? Okay, that means, oh, well, yeah, we do have one, and that's great to know. Yeah. What is the most difficult things that you come across? I mean, what's the hardest thing about buying something beautiful in a store, taking it home, and having to throw it away 3 weeks later?
Water.
Yeah.
Water.
Too much, too fertilized.
Yeah. Fertilizing. Oh, these are all good. Oh, that's another good one.
So how do you know when to transplant? Because
Oh.
I'll transplant it because it looks like but I don't want it to get real huge, and then I'll transplant it, and then it starts turning into a monster.
That's because you're allowing it. Okay, I'm going to tell you that I get asked questions every single day at my job about why I can't keep my houseplant alive. And I've explained the same thing to everybody. There's three main questions that you have to deal with. First is water, second is light, and the third is temperature. So what you're doing is you are looking at the ecosystem that you're providing for this plant. This is a water meter. It is the cheapest one we sell. I bought it, and I can't keep my plants alive without it because things may look like they need water. You put this thing in there, and the needle goes zzz, and so you know, oh, there's water down here where my finger and my eyes aren't touching. So that's a big one. Number two is this plant gets watered maybe once a month, sometimes longer than that. And it's thriving. It's thriving. Does anybody here name their plants? I will. I'm going to name it here in a second. But does anybody name their plants? A lot of people do. They call this one Jane and that one an unspeakable name, and other ones. This plant is a Hoya. It is in a pot that's this big, and you would think that this would be way too small for this size of a plant. The flower of a Hoya is one of the most beautiful scents in the world. It is absolutely, the flower is beautiful, but the scent is unimaginable. I have been waiting now for almost 6 years for this plant to give me a bloom. I have a customer who lived in New York. She's from New York, and she looks at all of our Hoyas every time we get new ones in. And she says, my mother had a Hoya, and it was so big that they had put it in an upside down tomato cage so that the branches could come out and come down. And she says it blooms profusely. When she left New York, she took a cutting of that plant, and when her mother passed, her sister still has it. And she told me, she says, that plant will take 6 to 8 years before it'll bloom. She said, so this plant is named Patience. Much patience. Yes. Yes. Few people get to see them. Yeah.
I have a non-variegated one that's probably 15 years old,
Mhm.
and it does bloom like crazy.
Yes.
And the smell is amazing, but it's only at night.
Oh, for that one. Now, that's not what I've heard about others, but that one, yes. This Hoya here, you can tell different leaf shape, different look, and it is also growing beautifully. The new leaves come in at almost a burgundy color, and then they change into this.
Do you snip those red things off?
Nope.
Oh,
Nope.
wouldn't they?
There has been a time where one has, like right here, like this guy,
Yeah.
like one like this size has died off on its own. But for the most part, I have never trimmed this thing ever. And the new growth on it is there. But I also learned something else. I was sharing with somebody in the room here that I like to sleep in a cold room with warm blankets. I just love the cold air, the clean air. This plant is by the window. It gets all of the cold air coming through that window, and it loves it. So I would always have thought that the cold would demolish a house plant. And it does for some of the tropicals, but not for all. You take a Boston fern and you lower the temperature down, and it's super happy, super happy. So there are plants can differ from one another, and this one in really unusual ways, but watering and knowing their water type is the number one thing for keeping them happy.
Do you have to keep turning it all the time towards the light?
This piece right here was my mother-in-law's. She's passed now, and it's marble. It's nice, and I've never figured out how to use it until I put this on it. And it's just so because it makes it turn easy. I turn it because the window it sits in front of gets all the western sun. And so here is a plant that you would have thought wouldn't like, but it gets the western sun, and it's always leaning towards it. So I flip it and turn it. And this little trellis that's in it is definitely, it's wrong for this because it's too big for the pot. This pot is so tiny. There's not enough depth for it to be sturdy. But now it's grown around it so much that I don't know what to put in it if I didn't put that in it.
Maybe you should put it in a bigger pot.
No, because then I have to wait another 6 years. That's what she told me. That's what she told me. She says, don't transplant it. Don't change it. And so I said, okay, I'm not gonna. So, yeah. If it ever does bloom, I probably will.
So if you go on a holiday, who takes care of it for you?
This one's great because on my holidays, this one is self-sufficient. I can go a month. Like I said, as it is right now, I only water it once a month or maybe sometimes longer than that.
Can you put it outside so if you go anywhere, sort of thing?
I've never had it outside. I've never put it outside. So, and so these are just two of the unusual ones. But back to the, oh, go ahead.
So I have a non-variegated Hoya that I've had at least 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
And it used to bloom consistently, all the time, one after the next. And then I moved about 5 years ago, and it hasn't bloomed since. But I put it outside all summer now, which I never used to do.
Did it like it?
Seems to love it.
I did that with Christmas cactus. One year I put a Christmas cactus outside because I had no more room, because I had, embarrassing to say, too many plants in the house that I was running out of room. So I go, okay, who's going to get the boot? And the Christmas cactus went outside. It grew like crazy. It grew like crazy outside. So now I always put it out and bring it in when it starts to get cold outside.
But I've had no blooms in about 5 years, as I think about it.
That's a hard one. Yeah.
Do you fertilize the Hoyas?
Yes, I do. Everybody says, oh, just give it bloom food, it'll bloom. Well, that's not true, but I do fertilize it. When we get to fertilizer, I'll share what I think are good ones and which aren't. But, and putting some bloom food on your Hoya that has bloomed in the past may inspire it a little bit. Not too sure. Yeah, go ahead.
I don't feed mine unless I want it to bloom, and then I feed it and it blooms.
Well, there you go. So how come you don't want it to bloom 24/7?
It has beautiful blossom, absolutely gorgeous. My granddaughter came in once and said, "Grandmother, what are you doing with that fake flower on your plant?"
Fake flower. You will be surprised when you see that bloom, yeah.
It's gorgeous, and I've had it for many years. And this is what I found out that works for me. I normally don't recommend Miracle Grow, which is like plant cocaine.
Mm-hmm. We call it crack.
One little drop in a gallon of water, and just enough to titillate its blooming senses, and it will bloom for you. Because it'll make anything bloom if it blooms. But the problem is, if you use it, it can burn your plant out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll talk about that when we get into the fertilizer
So
category.
I don't feed it during, the reason I don't feed it is because those blossoms drip honey,
Yeah.
and it gets all over the floor. It's sticky and messy. So I said, okay, you're in a whole different diet now. And so I only have it bloom when I feel like cleaning up the mess. But otherwise, it's a perfect bloom.
Yeah, I think they're lovely. They're different. They have, to me, an artistic value to them that you don't get with every houseplant. So, watering, knowing your plant, and being really careful with that. Not overwatering, which is usually the case, that things get too much water and their roots start to die and there's best thing you can do is just take the plant out of the pot.
There's only one plant in there?
This is only one, yeah. In both cases. And they both started out in little 4-inch pots. So, 6 years almost later, that's still doing it. But anyway, if you have a plant that's been overwatered and it's suffering, take it out, gently knock the roots or the soil off of the roots, look for the dying or dead roots, cut them off, and repot it. And some plants aren't worth all that trouble, especially depending on how big they are. But if it is, I'm constantly trying different ways to do things. I like to see, will this work, but getting rid of the dead roots will help very much. And for those, some people have plants that are they're sentimental about it. It was their mother's, it was their daughter that gave it to you, whatever, and they don't want it to fail. And so you can do the best you can.
Is there a rule of thumb about changing the soil of your houseplants? I mean, do you do it routinely or do you never? Or
I will say that when they will reach a point in a healthy plant where the root system will be more than the soil. If you've left it in there too long and it's growing and it's healthy and it's growing root, the ratio between soil to root all of a sudden starts shifting. And it can't pull in enough nutrient. So, yeah, that's when you would get it out. That's way past the time of getting it out. Often, you have a plant that is growing up high, and so the pot becomes too small, and that's another, you got to keep the balance there together. But there's a lot of people who said that they've had house plants. Somebody with a Christmas cactus that had been, she said, oh, this has been in this pot for 30 years. And I'm going, poor thing. Yeah, just take it out and put some fresh. That's where its food is coming from. I mean, it isn't getting enough nutrient to be the best it can be. If the soil is fading and there's nothing left in it. So then you're just pouring fertilizer on top where your soil is past its ability to do its job.
Is there a certain time of the year that is better for houseplants to be off them?
No, I think it would be more connected with bloom time. Yeah, I would wait. I would not transplant if it was preparing to bloom or in bloom. I would wait for that cycle to be over and then do the transplanting after that. Okay, light. Light is another factor. There's many low light plants out there, i.e. Here you go. Here's your Sansevieria, your snake plant. This prayer plant can take low light, but it still needs some. And for areas where you want them to be, you know, everybody, when you come into a room and where do you want your plant to be? You know, is it a piece of decoration? Is it just there because you impulse bought it at the store and you got to put it somewhere? You know, where, you know, it's what the plant is bringing to the room and where you're placing it. And usually that's about as far away from the natural light as you can get. You know, unless you have really good windows and space to put them by a window, you really need to get a grow light. And we put them in the, you know, because they all go into light sockets like any other bulb. You know, if any lamp that you've got in the vicinity, any way that you can bring light to it will make all the difference in their growth rate, how fast they grow, their color, just everything about them. So I really encourage using them and figuring out how to use them, because they really make a difference for a plant, especially one that has to try to survive with inadequate light. And now that it's so much easier to deal with than it used to be in the past. There's so many. I have little ones on little tiny stands that are good enough for one little pot. You know, those are very popular right now. I'm sorry, I need bigger and I need more. So I use the light bulb ones. And remember, that's good for you too. It's giving you full spectrum light that we don't get in the winter. You're missing many of the colors of the light in the winter months. That's why people are always eating vitamin D to try to supplement for that. And so light is good. Light and grow lights are good for you too.
So you can buy a grow light if you go into a table lamp?
Oh yeah.
You put your plant below it?
Yeah. I mean, it's that simple. Or, you know, in your kitchen, you know, some people have canned lights in their kitchen. You know, some people, if you have more, maybe you want to drop it down lower, you know. I don't have any of them drop down really low, but the light it provides is enough to keep them all growing. It doesn't look like a conservatory in my house, but you know.
I use the long-armed desk lamp.
There you go. Yeah.
And you can put it any place you want.
Yeah.
Any group that you want.
You know, your succulents love that too. You know, that's succulents in the house are like, they're going, wah, you know, give me some light. You know, I don't need the water thing. I'm really cool about the water thing, but give me some light. And that will definitely put you miles ahead in your ability to keep them looking their best and looking good. Then the last thing is temperatures, and then we'll get into soils and fertilizers. Temperature, you know, I talked about that a little bit in that there's a lot of plants that can live in cooler temperatures than you think. But we're in winter, coming into winter now, and I've said this to many of you before, windows get shut, doors get shut, and the heat gets turned up. And so the air just is sucked of its moisture. And so misting your house plants, not watering. Misting and watering are two different things. It's not like taking a sprayer and spraying water on them. Misting is just that light, very light mist that goes on there, and it's just enough to refresh them. So there's that. And
Couldn't you just put them outside the door for a while?
you try that and see how it works.
Well, I should think it would be a lot easier.
It just depends, again, on temperatures, you know. Yeah, in this rainy weather, and it hasn't been that cold, you could do that. But are you gonna do that every day? Are you
Well,
gonna?
I mean, they get used to getting it once a week.
Yeah. So if that works for them, that's fine. Yeah, whatever works, go for it. There's a lot of apartment dwellers that don't have a lot of opportunity and space and stuff. And houseplants seem to mean a lot to the customers I have that live in apartments. They need that sense of life in there, and it's and they definitely are using the mist. They often don't have very good lighting in their windows. Some of them don't have outside balcony spaces, and so keeping this stuff alive for them is sometimes a challenge. But again, we keep coming up with little ways to do that. Soil. We're going to get into soil. Now, somebody told me you work with soil?
Oh, yeah, I have a soil company.
We'll talk afterwards. I've just been to two big vendor shows, and there's so many soil names in my head, I can't keep count of them. But so I see a lot, and I know what gravitates me to something. So yeah, I'm really interested to hear what you've got.
One thing that I thought of while you were talking about soils that I think is important is you talk about the soil needing to be refreshed.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what's happening is the bulk density of that soil is increasing over time too, as things are breaking down. And
Yep.
so there's just not as much oxygen and air exchange.
The whole bit.
So that's why transplanting can be beneficial, besides giving more root space.
Right. The oxygen part is a very big thing. A lot of the soils now come in with those clay, I call them clay balls. There's probably a better word for it. And that's a very interesting concept of being able to keep aeration, water, all of that in balance. I mean, everybody's coming up with different ideas, and it's wonderful. I got my best information about soils and plant needs, and this goes 15 plus years ago when there was a gentleman in the store just looking at what we had and asking questions and whatnot. Come to find out, he was a full, serious marijuana grower, and I learned things from him that were amazing.
You did.
I will tell you that the science that was put into making that one plant grow has benefited the whole industry, because my childhood not my father, my mom never planted anything. My dad was a farmer from many generations back. He never used chemical fertilizers, but Miracle-Gro was what everybody grew up with. I mean, that was what chemicals is what you used. And to think that as the soils are how all of these plants evolved through the centuries, getting in some parts of the world this out of the soil, in other parts of the world they're getting that out of the soil, and so you have this diversity of plants and plant type, and how providing the soil nutrient that they need, whether they're a tropical, whether they're a cactus, whether, all of the different varieties, how much it matters, and then how you fertilize from that point, matters too. So why would you take wonderful, fresh earth and pour chemicals on it? It's like makes no sense to me. And anyway, the industry where I work has changed over in the 15 years that I've been in that garden center, used to be aisles and aisles of chemical fertilizer, because, you know, that's who was the big name, you know. Scott's Miracle-Gro was the big name. Scott's Products was the big name. Now, it's reduced down to 1/4 of what it used to be, and the rest of it is different natural selections that you can make. The burning of a plant because of the chemical intake. You know, people do it to their yards all the time. I want it to be green, and I want it to be green now. And they're pouring this stuff on there, and then they come back in and they go, it looks terrible. I want my money back. I said, well, you know, this is the result of putting this on your ground, and that grass is a plant. You know, lots of, you know, millions of little plants, these thousands of little plants, and that's not what they need to survive. And so, anyway, it's this one. I have this in the houseplant version too, and it's a small box that you can try, and these boxes are like $5. But it's the best. I love this company. It's one of the companies I love. This is from Down to Earth, and it's a cactus mix that's wonderful. There is a citrus mix, and you know, we don't do a lot of citrus in the Northwest. However, there's a lot of people that like to grow lemon trees and lime trees. Their citrus mix is like amazing for helping those things fruit and have the fruit make it all the way through and be good, and it's good. So I usually will recommend a natural fertilizer. However, we have the others. You know,
Can we see it up close?
Sure.
I'll
Sure.
pass it along so that we can
Yeah.
see.
Down to Earth is the brand.
Yeah, Down to Earth is the brand.
248.
Now, the 248, those numbers that we all have burned into our brains, nitrogen, phosphorus, and potash, those numbers were developed for the chemicals themselves, so that there is a ratio of how much of each category is contained in a dose of that. It's apples and oranges when you're talking natural organic compared to synthetic. I'll use the word.
Is it good for any plant?
That one is designed for cactus and succulents.
Oh, just only.
Yeah, I have another one. I didn't have one at home with me for houseplants. That's for houseplants. I mean, there's all kinds of mixes with that, as well as getting the individual ingredients. But
Wouldn't be good to palm a fern or anything. Big
ferns, for the most part, like acidic fertilizer.
Oh, do they?
Yeah. Yeah, and that makes a difference too. But yeah, I can show you. There's good options for that one too. But anyway, you get a good fertilizer. An organic fertilizer goes into the soil, and it breaks down. Like he was saying, you know, things break down. It breaks down slowly. It takes a long time for that little bit that you're putting on your little house plant, or bigger one as it may be. And it takes weeks and weeks for that to break down. The whole time it's nourishing.
So you don't mix it with water then?
Nope.
You just put it on
Yep.
like a quarter of a
Yeah.
cup full
And you
of
might take a little fork or
spoon.
something and kind of mix it in, you know, get it into
the
the
top layer, sort of.
Yeah.
Scratch it in.
Yeah, scratch it in.
Oh.
And then water as your plant needs it. And
About once a month?
that once a month, or once every
2 months?
2 months, you know.
All according to your holiday.
Or whenever you get brought in from the back porch, you know. So there is that. Pruning, you talked about having plants that were getting bigger than you wanted them to be. You can, well, you can, but you can also start Googling bonsai, and you can start playing with that. You go, oh, I like this plant, it's getting too big. Well, let me see what I can do about that. And instead of the top, you go to the bottom. You know, you go to the root system and trim that down and keep it. And so there's endless things to keep moving your curiosity from this step to the next step to the next step. And yeah, so I don't know if is there any other questions? Yes, go ahead.
Do succulents like clay pots or ceramic?
They don't care. They don't care so long as they have well-draining soil and they're not overwatered. They don't care. I like the clay pots because they breathe, but it doesn't matter.
They dry out.
See, she doesn't like them because that air causes them to dry faster, but, you know, I don't care.
So you have none?
Yeah, no.
Some-
Go ahead.
Some plants don't like lime,
No, they don't.
and clay pots have,
Not all.
not all.
Not all, because how they're manufactured and the country that the clay comes from and how they're manufactured in China is way different than how they're manufactured in Vietnam or Mexico or Italy or Germany. So we get pots from all of those places, and it is how they're manufactured in China is extremely dangerous, and I don't know.
You got it in a plastic one now?
This one is, no, not plastic. This is a ceramic
Oh,
pot.
ceramic.
Nothing fancy. You know, I have to use whatever I have got on hand. You know, I have bought some pots in my lifetime, but I mix and match a lot. You know? And you can't see it anyway. You know?
Well, it looks like a plastic one.
No, it is a ceramic. Yeah.
I have a peace lily that has gotten just way too big for the house.
For the house.
So can
Separating
you
it?
just like cut it in half, or you know what's the best way to save that?
When you don't know, again, I will give the recommendation, take it out of the pot, knock all the soil off, rinse it down to it's just its roots, and see if it's a place where you can separate, or if it damage, you know, if you have to cut right through the main, you can't. So then you look for putting it on eBay for $200. Go ahead.
I have that same plant, a couple of them, and they're huge, and I love them. But I noticed that they get little white dots on them, or those bugs, or what are those?
Mildew.
It's a mildew?
What I thought.
What do you think those are?
Without seeing it, I would have to.
Okay,
look.
they kind of, I can dust it off. Oh, it's almost, I don't know what it is.
Does it
Oh, maybe it's pollen. Oh, could be pollen from the flowers.
from the flowers themselves?
I feel so much better.
If it dusts off, it's fine. If it flies away, it's a different story. Yeah, go ahead.
So I have a Christmas cactus, and I'd really like it to start flowering around Christmas. Is there something that you can do with the Christmas cactuses to boost that?
You want it to bloom or not to bloom?
I want it to bloom around Christmas.
Mine's all in bloom right now. Mine's at Thanksgiving.
Again, I would just say, you know, do some research on that. Some people say, oh, you have to put them in the closet. I don't think so. Mine blooms whenever mine just finished blooming. And
Your Christmas cactus just finished?
well, because it blooms in the summer, because I always put it outside. It always blooms outside, and then I bring it in, and so it's been in the house for a bit, and then it bloomed
I
again.
just split mine in half and stuck it in the basement, and they're all covered with buds.
Well,
Yeah.
they're different though. If they have, if you look at the end of the tip of the thing, if it's got little horns on it, I call that a Thanksgiving cactus. If
Yeah,
it's
they're-
rounded, it's a Christmas cactus. And they do bloom at different times, and so I have 4 different varieties that bloom at all different times.
Yeah, but I think they'll bloom when they feel like it. They are different species, but they're started on a calendar to make them be ready at Thanksgiving time or Easter time, because now there's Easter cactus. I mean, you've got all these different versions, and then when they come home to you after they've bloomed at that holiday on that year, I think they're going to settle into whatever makes them comfortable in the environment that you've got. Go ahead.
Are there any popular houseplants right now that you won't grow again? You just really don't enjoy growing?
Caladium, I have a hard time with caladium in the house. You know, outside, no problem. But when it comes time to bringing them in, I'm really working with that, trying to figure out how to keep them happy indoors. And they don't die, but they don't look great. So that's definitely one. What is, no, it's got it. It's got it. One particular houseplant that is extremely popular right now, and it's very expensive, it's called Thai Constellation. And it is got, it's not variegated in the traditional, like I would consider something variegated. It's just got these moving lines of color in the leaf. It's really pretty. And when it gets its cut, it takes time for it to get its deep cuts in the leaf, and it can get really big. I mean, I've seen $800 to $1,000 for one that is about my height. And yeah. I don't get that. Well, there's commercial buildings that do that all the time. Yeah, they want showy, they want big, they want all that, and yeah, they pay that. So I bought a small one, and planted it up, and we'll see how it goes. And go ahead.
Okay, I don't know the proper name of the plant that would be on your right side or your right hand.
This one?
Yes. So I have a couple of those, and I must have broken part of it off by trying to twist it up
Yeah.
as it hangs. And so it had all these little leaves, and I'm like, oh, poor thing. So I clipped that, and I stick everything in water, you know. Okay, that'll solve the problem. And oh my gosh, it totally loved it. So the leaves all came back, they're all full. Now,
So you trimmed it, and it did better. Yeah.
But like I said, I must have twisted one of the branches. And so now, it's been 2 days, I haven't really looked at it, and I don't know if it's got roots coming out of it. So I realize this is in another avenue of propagation, in a sense. But now, so in my mind, God, it loves water, because it's in water, that's it, not soil at this point. Is there, I don't quite understand the difference between overwatering, even though the roots, you're getting the roots. The plant itself is getting water, but this is in water only. So,
And it's developing its roots, and it's doing its thing.
no, I don't know yet. I haven't.
Yeah, I'm not sure about the propagation of this one.
But in other words, why would a piece of plant, and maybe this is way beyond the realm of what we're in today, well, why would a piece of a plant love all this water, and then if you water, it doesn't like it?
That takes us into biology deeper than then I've studied about why. You know, yeah.
So not only do I want the Christmas cake to flower, I'd also like the violets
Oh, you're
to start flowering.
the African violets.
I bought them, the lovely green leaves now, but not a flower inside.
They'll come back. They rest after a flowering period. They do rest. Mine just finished flowering, and it'll be a matter of weeks before it ever. It might be next month or the month after it'll bloom again. Yeah, it's.
What kind of fertilizer would you put on those? Anything special?
I use wherever I use the houseplant version of that on all my stuff. I use a liquid bloom food, an organic liquid bloom food on those that flower, and I have a lipstick plant, and it's something curvy. I can't remember the full botanical name of it because the branches are. They don't curl, but they bend in different directions. It's different from the traditional lipstick plant, and its bloom is very, very. It looks like little flames of fire. It's just really pretty, and the blooms are upright, not down. I had that plant for a year. It's a version of lipstick plant, but I can't remember the full botanical name. I just know that curva is in that name. I had it for a year, and I put it outside on the porch, hung it one summer. It didn't not like it, but it didn't like it. I mean, it just said like ho-hum, and brought it back in. Then I got one bloom on it the next year. And it was just like, oh my God, this is so beautiful. Come on, more. Well, then the next time it bloomed, a year hadn't gone by, but it bloomed again. And this time I got 3 blooms on it. So I go, well, I guess we're going in the right direction because he was really getting ready for the dub. And I can only wait so long, patience. And this year, and so I would use that liquid bloom food when I fed it. Oh my gosh, it exploded with blooms this year. And they're just the most unique blossom ever. I should have brought that one with me. I wish I would have too. But
Is this it?
that's not it. It's a lipstick. It's a lipstick. But you know how lipstick plants have, they got the name because it has the outward petal and then the inside one comes out and blooms too. This one does it differently, but it's in that same category.
Do you have them at your shop?
Yes, and I will look for it when I get there, and I'm ordering from them again. I'll probably order for this week. For them to come in for next week. And I will get another one. But it is a patient plant. It took time for it. The branches are nice and long. So the wingspan of these things start, how many places can I hang something in this house, And, so, there's a little bit of give and take there.
Well, I was just going to say before because we're getting short on time, but you were going to prune mine.
Oh,
plant?
yes.
What's wrong or what's good about that plant?
Okay, so this plant, which is healthier than I was led to believe. Yes, it. This on the leaf is a watering thing.
Overwater or underwater?
Well, you know what? You get the same result from either. You will start getting a drying, but this is overwatering. And yeah, overwatering. So, just for what it's worth, right now it's not. So right now, it's down to 1, and it's ready for more. So when I water this plant, now not everybody is as crazy as me. I take it to the kitchen sink, and I drench them till the soil is drenched, and let it dripping, and then I take it back to wherever it's supposed to go. Yeah, water well.
You do that just to that plant or all of it?
All of them. Yeah, pretty much. I don't take a little thing of water and water them. Because you might get down this far of the soil when there's this much soil, and and then that dries really quickly. So there you go back to watering more often. But that's me. Not everybody wants to do that in their kitchen sink. Not everybody can move the plant. I have one that's in a pot that's pretty heavy. It's a beautiful calathea. It's the snake calathea. And that is a super easy plant to grow too. Its leaves have got to be this long now. It just is so, I don't need any fuss. It is just a fuss-free plant that's really striking to look at. And calatheas have a lot of versions. Look up calathea and you'll have bajillions of versions of them. This one is, rattlesnake is a common name for it. It's got a beautiful pattern on a long, thin leaf.
Oh, like a mother-in-law's tongue.
No, that's this. That's Sansevieria. That's what this guy is. No, calathea is a soft tissue. Is a soft tissue plant, and
Is that a shoot out of the other one?
yeah, this is new growth. That's why look at this. Look at this. There's new growth here. There's new growth here. Oh, the ugly.
Hey, excuse me.
You're saying this about whose mother-in-law?
Yeah, that one.
That's a rare one.
Yeah, this is a rare mother-in-law.
It's a rare mother-in-law.
Is that the same plant or two?
It's the same plant. Its root system has sprung up a second one.
That's improvement.
I like it.
Yeah. Anyway, for these guys here,
Oh, does she mind me doing that?
she asked me to.
You're just getting off the leaves with it.
Yep, yep. And because your growth it's growing beautifully. It's growing beautifully. So you don't have much to worry about at all.
Is that the one you were talking about wanting to train? So is that possible that she could train that up?
Yes, the one I have at home, I have a trellis piece behind it, and I have some of the branches going up, and I have some of the branches going down. And it's really, it's a striking plant because this pattern is this chartreuse green on top of this deep green, and it's really pretty.
Can you just cut the brown part off the leaf instead of taking the whole leaf off?
No, the leaf will go,
Okay.
yeah.
I have a question. A sister-in-law of mine has outdoor coleus. It's just gorgeous.
Mhm.
I remember when I was in college, I had a coleus plant inside. Can you still have them as indoor plants, or they need to be out?
When at the end of this season, we had like 3 or 4 coleus left.
Oh.
And I brought them inside because I wanted to answer that question. And right now, they're looking beautiful.
So you have some at the store?
At the store, inside, yeah.
Okay.
See, this is always, because I try to think as how my customers would question things too. Can my coleus live inside? And I don't see why it can't. So, but I'm not going to tell somebody it can unless I've tried it. So I brought some in. I've got a papyrus plant that my coworker he loves them, and he plants them every summer. Things this tall, it's gorgeous. And he throws them away at the end of the season. I go, bring it in. Let's bring it in and see if we can keep it. You know, either it will or it won't. And so, yeah, it's in there. I'm anxious to see. It's you can't tell in November. You gotta wait till March to see if something is really going to do it. Yeah, it's really going to make it or not. So,
I was going to say, I have a Myers lemon that I've had for years, and I take it out in the summer.
And bring it in.
And about now, it's still outside, and it's in a huge ceramic pot.
Yeah.
And I'll bring it inside to the garage.
How many people do you hire to bring it in?
Well, it's on a rolling thing, and my husband and I now have to do it.
Pull it in.
And I have, I don't know, 20, 25 lemons every year, and it seems to bloom several times a year.
Yeah.
And has lemons developing.
That's awesome.
Hey, cocktails at your house.
Okay. Yeah, it's awesome, and they're great. I mean,
They are, and there's more and more people doing this. You know, most people, I mean, it wasn't I didn't have people asking me for lemon trees until, now I don't even remember before COVID. You know, COVID's the new measure of before and after. But now I have several customers who are growing lemon and lime trees. And so I always recommend that particular fertilizer, and they all do really well. But they reach a point where this is going to be a challenge getting it in and out. So yeah, you got to have it in the most mobile to move it from here to there.
well, I'm running out of room in the garage.
Okay, it's time to build a new garage, you know. All right, it's 11:01. I turned into a pumpkin at this point, and I got to go, because I got to go to work. Oh, thank you for the reminder. Next Tuesday, November 20th, from 5 o'clock to 8 o'clock, is Our Ladies' Night at the store, where everything is 20% off.
Down at what store is it?
The Gig Harbor Ace.
Oh, I didn't know.
Oh, yeah.
That's okay.
And, oh, look at yours, look at yours, look at yours.
Hi, this is the mother plant to these is from Ace Hardware. From I don't know how many years ago, and it has not bloomed, but it's in my window and it's gotten too big, so
See, she's got it in water.
I propagate, and I
Look at this,
Get in
look at
water.
this.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
and I have more than I need, so if somebody wants a piece, this can be the door prize today.
That is a great thing to do. I've never propagated any of this, and this is, I should name it Samson. It's never had a haircut, you know.
Yes, mine have gotten so big. The only thing I will say, I know if you do propagate it, if you have one that's bloomed, it has it'll have a little extra thing, and you don't want to cut that one.
No, you don't want to cut that
That'll
one.
bloom again.
Yeah.
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 So, but otherwise, yeah, I cut mine off.
So Jenny, if we grabbed one of those, then do we just put it in water like you have, or do we
No,
put it
I
in
would
the
I would
plant
put
it
it
in
in
soil.
soil now.
Soil.
Put it in
Yeah, it's
the
ready to
soil.
plant.
She said it was adorable.
I heard that, yeah.
Maybe she can have.
And if anybody wants any more, just let me know and I'll start some more.
And see the length of this?
You could cut that and
If you cut that and plant this one and put the other piece in the water and let it root, and then you can add it.
That's a good idea.
plant that keeps on giving.
Yeah, yeah. All right. So anyway, everything's 20% off next Wednesday, it's Wednesday the 20th. And so we'll have good plant. We just got a lot of new product in for pots and just all kinds of stuff. And there's going to be vendors there.
All day thing?
No, it's from 5 to 8.
When the traffic's heavy.
Totally busy.
No, I don't think, the store normally closes at 6.